All right, hello everybody. Right now what I'm going to show you is how to create scales in SPSS. So some of you are using single item measures to assess different individual differences or your dependent variables, but some of you are using a few different items combined to form a scale. So, maybe you have an index of different behavioral intentions that show how likely someone is to engage in some kind of behavior or something like that. Or maybe you have like a personality scale. What I have up here as kind of demo data, you probably recognize as stuff that Jenna created and had you used for the Lab 9 activity. So some of these things like openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, these would just be, single item measures of those different things. But let's say you wanted to measure something like anxiety. So what Jenna put up here was kind of some fabricated data that has to do with the state trait anxiety inventory. And you can kind of see from this, it's 6 items, some of them 2, 3, and 6 from how she's put them together here, mirroring the real scale, are coded in the normal direction, like higher scores indicating more anxiety. And she's also noted where some of them are reverse scored. So we talked about that a little bit in measurement. Sometimes you want to reverse score things, maybe to weed out people that are giving just all like the same number of responses or something, but it's also psychometrically a good thing to do to have people think about things forward and backwards and then kind of see how those things hang together. But anyway, 1, 4, and 5 in the scale are reverse coded. So I'm going to show you two things. I'm first just going to show you basically how to put a scale together. I'll just use 2, 3, and 6 just to show you how to put together a scale with items all going in the same direction. And then I will show you how to put together a scale with all of these forward and reverse coded items. Okay, so to start out putting a scale together, there are ways to do this through like the syntax in SPSS. So like, for example, if you are somebody that likes to do, your own coding, I don't know how familiar anybody is really with SPSS, you can open these syntax windows and type it out yourself. But for the purposes of this, I'm just going to stick to using the drop-down menus. So in order to create a scale, you go to the Transform tab and click Compute Variable, and that's going to allow you to combine different things into a new variable. Oops, and I was already practicing this a little bit. I'll erase this. So let's just imagine that we are going to do that first one where they're all coded in the same direction. So we would do the state trait anxiety index partial. That's just what I happen to call it. You could call it whatever you want, but just remember that whatever you put in this target variable field is what your new variable is going to be called. Down here, you have all the variables that are available to you, as well as the names that they have as variables. So their descriptions and their actual names. So over here, you can type whatever you want as an expression to create this new variable, or you can use these different buttons to try to kind of bring things over, or you can drag them over to the numeric expression box too. So in order to create a scale, basically all you need to do is just create an expression that creates an average of these items. So if you wanted to create one for those 3 forward-coded items, all you need to do is just create an expression like put your first variable plus your second variable plus your third variable. So yeah, I have those separated by plus signs and surrounded by parentheses, so they're all one part of this expression. And then I would just put /3 divided by 3 because there are 3 items. Now remember, like I said, you can just drag these over if you want and it will just auto-populate them. But you can also use these kind of forward and back arrow buttons too. So the two things you can really do from this are you can paste this syntax if you want to see like what it looks like, and if you really wanted to do your own coding and just change things based on this, you can kind of paste it in there. But for your purposes, it's a little bit easier, if I can find my correct window again, to just press OK. When you press OK, it's going to compute that variable for you. So you can see on the output that it is doing that calculation for you, and then when you go back to SPSS, you'll see that it has entered that variable for you right here, that it has done that STAI partial. It has taken the average of those three columns that I asked it to, and it's calculated that. Okay, the next slightly more complicated thing that we want to do, if we have items that are reverse coded, if you push this reset button, it just erases everything in the compute variable window. Let's say we want to do the reverse coded items as well in there. This is where it gets just a little bit more complicated. Let's call this STAI full for the full state trait anxiety scale. What you need to do for this is do basically the same thing, but reverse those reverse coded items. So there are a bunch of ways to do this. I think this one is the most straightforward. It first, I think, requires taking a look at what these items contain. So the items you created, they have scales that range from 1 to 7 or 1 to 6 or 1 to 4 in this case for the STAI. Any response in here are going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4. So you need to know the range of the items that you're working with in order to do this method of using the reverse coded items. So keep that in mind. And remember that all these are 4. So for the reverse coded items, let's stick one in here to start. Let's take item number 1. Item 1, like all the others, has 4 responses, and you want to make those all opposite. So you want like 1 to be 4, and 2 to be 3, and 3 to be 2, and 4 to be 1, in order to reverse all these scores. So the responses that people had that were originally 1, but they're indicating some high level of anxiety, we're switching them around, so those items are turned around, basically. And to do that, all you have to do is take 1 more than the range of your scale, and subtract your item from 1 more than the range of that scale. So if you take 5 minus 4, your 4 is now 1, so it's reversed it. If you take 5 minus 3, your 3 is now 2, so you've reversed it. 5 minus 2 is 3, 5 minus 1 is 4. So all these things, if you take 1 more than your scale minus the item, it reverses it. Okay, so we've, in this expression, reversed your first item in that scale. So we've reversed the reversed first item. Okay, then you just kind of do the same stuff you've done before in the prior example. It doesn't matter if you have the spaces, I just like it so you can kind of see what's going on here. All you need to do then is keep going with this, reversing the 4th and 5th items too. Sorry. And adding in that 6th item. Okay, so I've got all these items added together, the reversed 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the reversed 4th, the reversed 5th, and the 6th. So just like last time, you need to put the whole thing in parentheses again. And now you have 6 items as one expression, so you divide it by the total number of items, which is 6. So if we press OK, it's going to calculate that for us. We go back to our data, and we see we have the STAI full, and it created this new column for us. So this one, the partial, remember, is only containing items 2, 3, and 6. The full is containing all 6 of those items. So you can see they're all different. The places where they're the same are just coincidences, but this scale is substantively different from this one here. So that's, I think, the most straightforward way to do this. I know it's a little bit complicated. There are other ways you can do it by using these recode variable commands in some different menus, but I think it's easier just to be able to see exactly what you're doing here in order to make these scales. So give it a try if you are somebody that needs to do this, and if you're having issues with it, feel free to email me. We can do emails back and forth. We could do a Zoom session where you share your data with me, and I can kind of walk you through it and share my screen or share yours, and we can make sure that you have all of the information that you need. All right, let me know if you have any questions, and good luck.